I started entrepreneurship because I couldn't bear the thought of living my entire life on someone else's terms, just clocking in, clocking out, and waiting for every single weekend. But what they don't tell you is how hard entrepreneurship actually is. So in this video, I'm going to break down why I started entrepreneurship, the daily struggles that go on behind the scenes, and honestly, why this journey isn't for everyone. So if you're thinking about going all in on yourself, then this one's for you. So why I started entrepreneurship? Well, to put it simply, it was just because I hated my job. I wasn't paid very much. I always had this thought where, I thought this can't be it. I can't do this for the rest of my life. Stuck in a 9 to 5 in a job you hate, really, can that be it? So that was the first time that I really started to think deeply about what I wanted to do with my life, because I didn't go to uni. I went to college, I studied engineering and got a full-time job, and I was there for a long time. I admit that I got more comfortable than I should have been. I should have experienced more. I should have moved around, looked for new positions. But when you're in a comfortable job, it's easy to settle, and I think at that point you can get stuck, and that's dangerous, right? I saw the 9 to 5 as a trap. So it wasn't just about financial freedom for me, it was about creative freedom, freedom to do what you want when you want. If you want to go gym in the morning, fine. If you want to go and spend time seeing family and friends, fine. That's what I wanted to do. It wasn't just about financially, right? It wasn't just about making lots of money, because yeah, that's great, making more money, but it's the time freedom that you get back which is more valuable than money, because money you can make more, you can't get time back. So it's hugely important, I think, to build a life where you can live freely, you can spend time doing what you want when you want. So yeah, I was craving freedom over comfort, essentially, right? So I was comfortable. I wasn't even on a bad salary, to be honest. I was on a fairly decent salary, and I had a house. I was comfortable, but I just didn't. There was this thing in the back of my mind where I just felt like there was more to life, and the only way of achieving that was to get a really high-paid job, which is going to take decades of experience and working the way up a company, right? Or you could create a business and you could achieve this in a matter of years. So that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, I guess I hit a breaking point when I had a bad boss. I was struggling with the toxic workplace, the atmosphere, the whole culture of the building, the company itself, and I knew I needed to get out, right? I knew I needed to make a huge change in my life and start learning skills that were going to get me to that goal. Because I believe all entrepreneurship is stacking skills together, right? So if you can learn skills like marketing, sales, branding, copywriting, content creation, and you stack these skills together, you can create pretty much any business. An online business, right? It doesn't have to be like my main businesses that I do is e-commerce and digital products, and now I do mentoring, teaching other people how to set up online businesses. But really the same skills apply for many different types of businesses. So it's just a case of learning those skills, get really good at them, and then stack them together so you can create a offer and solve a big problem, right? And that's what business is, just solving problems, providing value. So yeah, it depends how much you want it, right? Because everyone can say they want to run their own business or they want to build an empire for themselves, but I don't think people understand what it really takes and how much of a drive you truly have to have. But yeah, the daily struggles, I suppose, that no one talks about. So, waking up with no boss, on the surface that sounds great, but there's also no guarantees, right? It's very difficult because you come from a routine where you've got to be at work for a certain time, you leave work at a certain time, So there's a clear divide between work and life balance. At work, there's a clear divide between your home life and your work life. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, it's very easy to slip into mixing the two together. So you've got to be very careful of how you set your routine up and how you cope with working from home and things like that, and having that balance there. It's hard because every day there's huge uncertainty because you don't know what you're doing, because there's no routine, right? Every day's different. Monday you could be, for example, designing websites. Tuesday you could be doing orders and content creation. Wednesday you could be doing emails. Like, every day is completely different, but you can look at that as a good thing or a negative, I suppose, because it depends how structured your life is now. It's very difficult to go from working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday straight to no job. You've got to set your own alarm, wake up, motivate yourself, be disciplined to get up and actually go to work and make money. Because when you start making a bit of money online, it's easy to get complacent and to get comfortable with and relaxed with not having to work as much, if that makes sense. But you need to put in the work, especially at the start, because you need to build that momentum and just continually grow your revenue and your business over time so you can scale it up. So it's easy to get to like 5k a month, 10k a month, and then take your foot off the gas, because at that point things change and you're more comfortable, you've got more flexibility. But there's so many different levels to entrepreneurship. Like, there's people out there making like 1 million a month, 10 million a month. So when you're only making like 10k a month, that doesn't sound, to most people that's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money at all. And there's people out there making 10 times, 100 times that. So the other thing is your income isn't linear, right? Some days you make, for me anyway, thousands of pounds, and then some days you make zero, and that's just how it is. It's a roller coaster of income. Some days it's loads, some days you don't make very much at all, and that's just something you need to get used to, because it's not consistent. It's not a stable income. It depends how you're setting up your business structure, but for most people the amount you earn can change depending on the week, the month, the season, the year. It's very different, and it's hard to get used to that feeling, which is why you have to be very careful with money and what you spend and what you invest in, right? So the next point I've written down is you wear 10 hats in a day. And this, coming back to like what I was saying about the different skills you have to learn, right? So you have to do marketing, sales, website builds, customer service, fulfillment, packing orders, stock, speaking to suppliers, email marketing, things like that. So you're doing many different jobs on a daily basis. So it's very difficult at the very start, because you don't have the funds to yet hire people and outsource those jobs. As a beginner entrepreneur, you have to wear all these hats. You have to get at least a little bit good at these roles and these skills, so then when you do hire, if you're being taken for a ride, right? You know how to do them yourself, so you can keep an eye on whether they're being done correctly. I think a lot of mistakes people make is they outsource too quickly, and for example, if you get someone to run your ads for you without understanding how to do it yourself, you haven't got the knowledge to decide whether they're doing a good enough job or not, and whether you're actually benefiting from their services. So I think it's beneficial to learn at least the basic skills for yourself before you look to outsource. So the next point I've written down is people around you won't always get it. And this is so true, because I think when you're so motivated and you're so driven to make a change in your life, you speak to people and they just don't understand what you're talking about. They just don't get it. They're still in that 9 to 5 mindset, which is fine, because it's difficult to come out of that, right? When you've worked a full-time job for that long, it's difficult to just completely change your mindset within a short space of time. It takes time. It takes lots of reading books, listening to the right people, podcasts. It's the information you consume is who you become. So if you're not doing those things, then you're always going to think like someone as a 9 to 5 employee, right? Someone in a full-time position. So you've got to be very careful about who you speak to and who you share your knowledge and opinions with, because they just won't get it. And sometimes it hinders your own motivation and your own thoughts, because it can make you, I guess, demotivated. It can really dampen your mood. So it's always great to hang around with like-minded people, speak to people who are on a similar journey. It doesn't have to be the same business model. They just have to have the same mindset, the mindset of growth and achieving extraordinary things, right? Beyond what the norm is, the average person doesn't do. The average person goes to work 9 to 5, they come home, you know, they buy a house, they get a mortgage, they get married, they have kids, they go on 1 or 2 holidays a year, and that's the average life. So if you're talking to those sort of people who don't understand entrepreneurship and the sacrifice you have to make and the hard work, especially at the start, then you're just going to demotivate yourself, and it's going to suppress your own imagination and thoughts. So yeah, I mean, constantly doubt yourself is another point I've written down. So because you do, I think, myself included, I think everyone at the very start of their journey struggles with imposter syndrome. So not thinking you're good enough to be doing what you're doing, right? Everyone goes through that stage, and it's a huge limiting belief. But if you can understand that all it is a limiting belief, it helps you overcome it and break through that barrier, if you like. So it's just one of those things, and it's similar to like burnout and the comparison. They say comparison is the thief of joy, right? So if you're comparing yourself to people online all the time who are driving supercars, staying in fancy villas and traveling the world, they might be 10 years ahead in the journey than you are, right? So you can't compare yourself to people who have been in the game longer, because it's just going to rob you of your motivation and your joy. So you have to be disciplined. You have to use social media to your advantage to produce content. That's absolutely fine, but try not to consume too much content, you know, especially if you're, for example, if your YouTube algorithm or your Instagram algorithm are set up in a way where all they show you is stuff that kind of makes you a little bit depressed. I would try not to spend too much time on social media unless you're creating content. So yeah, imposter syndrome, burnout and comparison, they're all normal things that everyone goes through. You just have to work through it and come out the other side and understand that these are just thoughts in your head. Next up is why it's not for everyone, and that's okay, right? So, you know, if you need external validation or stability to function, you may struggle in entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is extremely unstable. So, you know, some people need more structure, and that's fine. Like it's normal, right? It's hard. Some people really struggle with not having that daily structure, weekly structure, or whatever it is. It's very difficult, especially when you're in the early stages where you haven't yet figured out your proper routine. It took me a whole year to get to the point where I now feel more structured in my day-to-day activities of what I do, where I wake up, I go to the gym first thing in the morning. Well, I don't. I wake up, I have a coffee, I sit on the computer for about an hour to half an hour to an hour, answer any DMs, get back to people in the community and things like that, emails, and then I take myself off to the gym. I train for around 2 hours. I come back, and then I am in my focused work period. So I work straight after the gym all the way until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then what I do is I go for a dog walk. I take my headphones, I listen to an audiobook, so I like to educate myself, and then I come back, have dinner. If I've got any calls in the late afternoon or evening, I take those, and then I go back to work until around 9-10 o'clock at night, and then I just take myself off to bed, watch a little bit of TV in bed before we fall asleep, and then that's basically it every single day. And that's what I think a lot of people struggle with, because there's no structure there. It's just me doing what I think's best, and sometimes that's difficult to map out and plan out. So yeah, you know, people that have a 9 to 5, they have usually extreme structure, so they find it really easy to go about their day, right? So the other thing is that I've written down is you have to be able to fail in public. So doing videos like this, talking to the camera, uploading it to YouTube and social media, and not getting any views, not getting any engagement is extremely embarrassing, I suppose, to a lot of people. You have to accept that you've got to do these uncomfortable things and put them out on the internet. You've got to try things, you've got to fail. Not every business idea you do is going to work, and that's absolutely fine. I've tried around 9 businesses now, and only 2 or 3 of them have succeeded. And that's just that's just entrepreneurship. You have to put yourself out there online and fail, essentially. You have to look like a bit of an idiot, right? You have to get comfortable with being embarrassed in public. So, and people judging you as well. Like you're going to get people judge you. And what you'd be really surprised at is the people who judge you are the people who you thought were your friends. Not everyone is going to like what you put out, because people like to see you doing well, but they don't like to see you doing better than them. So that's where the judgment comes in, and they may look at your stuff, they never engage with it. And this happens to me all the time. Like, half my friends they always see my content, but they never make an effort to engage with it, knowing that the small amount of engagement that I get would massively help me in terms of confidence and things like that. It's small little things like that. If your friends are trying entrepreneurship or trying to start another business, please give them encouragement, engage with their content, push them, motivate them, because it's extremely hard to see people who you thought were close to you not even support you through the toughest parts of the journey, right? And at the very beginning, you have to look like a bit of a numpty to, put yourself out there on social media and essentially create content that no one's going to watch. The benefit of creating content no one's going to watch is no one's watching it, so no one can judge you, right? I guess you could look at it that way. So yeah, I mean, the next point I've put down is no one tells you what to do. So if you can't manage your own time or stay consistent without someone watching you, then it's going to be extremely tough to be an entrepreneur. You need to get comfortable and you need to get good at motivating yourself. You need to set your own plan and be disciplined, extremely disciplined. That's the word. The next point I've got is it takes years, not weeks. Now, you won't get rich quick, and that's a fact. I mean, unless you win the lottery or you're extremely lucky, because there's always an element of luck in entrepreneurship. But most people are not going to get rich quick, and it's going to take a long time, many years to figure out all the skills. And yeah, you're going to have to do this for a long time without any validation, without any results. And that's part of the journey. It's extremely difficult to go through that period where you haven't got anything to show for the amount of work you've been putting in. But just know deep down that what you're doing is compounding over time. You're building these skills, you're building the knowledge, you're learning from the mistakes, you're figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then one day it all happens overnight and everyone calls you an overnight millionaire, an overnight success, right? But they haven't seen the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of working in the dark, through the day, every single day, struggling with no one seeing what you're doing. They just see the period where you finally make it, and that's absolutely fine, because that's just, you've got to have extreme patience and understand long-term gratification. And I think the problem with society now is people like being validated short term, which is why everything is super fast now and almost instant, right? People can't deal with patience and waiting, going through a tough period, a grind for a long time to see the potential benefit later on down the line, right? And that's really difficult to do. If you can't think like that and you can't change your mindset to adapt to that, then it's going to be really difficult to create your own business and be an entrepreneur. So yeah, and the final point I've got for this video is you have to love the process, right? It's not just about the outcome. It's the age old saying is it's not the top of the mountain that matters, it's the journey, right? It's not summiting the mountain, it's the climb. And as cliche as that sounds, it's so true, because you have to enjoy the process. You have to love what you do every single day, because you're going to be challenging yourself constantly. And if you're not in love with the process, then you're going to find it extremely difficult to stay motivated, to stay disciplined, and yeah, just work on it over time. So you have to love the process. You have to fall in love with the process. And once you do, it's truly amazing, because it changes your whole life. I wake up every single day loving what I do, excited for the future. I don't get that feeling on a Sunday evening of, deep, anxious, sickness feeling where I'm nervous about going to work the next day. I go to bed on a Sunday absolutely buzzing to wake up on a Monday, because I get to go to the gym early, I get to smash work, I get to do what I love, I get to make money online, I get to speak to who I want, network, and yeah. And if you fall in love with the process, it'll make the whole journey so much more enjoyable for you, and more likely that you're going to see success, right? Because you actually enjoy doing what you're doing every day, rather than being at work struggling, right? But if you don't like the process, if you don't find building businesses fun, then you're not going to like entrepreneurship. You're going to struggle. You're going to start this for a number of months. Maybe you'll see it out for 6 months to a year, and then you're just going to give up. And if that's the case, there's no point even getting started. But if you do like the process, if you do find this sort of thing enjoyable, then you're going to smash it. It's just going to be a matter of time, right? And as long as you have the discipline to stick at it for years on end, I remember, you don't truly fail until you give up. So even if it takes you 10 years, right, you haven't failed until you hand in the towel and completely give up, right? Like I said, I've tried multiple business models, multiple e-commerce stores, multiple different products, niches, business models, and most of them have failed. And that's just what you got to accept. That's how it is, right? So yeah, I mean, that's it for this one, guys. That's the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed my breakdown. The goal is to help out my younger self. This is the sort of content I would have liked to watch. So if you like this sort of stuff, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.